Hello, friends. Welcome to the Motivation Broadcast here in beautiful Savannah, Georgia. I want to say first that it's been a minute since I've been on the air. I want to thank all of you for asking about me. I am doing absolutely fantastic by the power of Elohim. And it was His will that I go and do some other work in the kingdom for the past few months. That's what I have done. I've continued to learn and I've helped many within the kingdom. So I want to thank you for asking about me, but do not worry. By His power, I am perfectly fine. Today I want to come forth and talk to you about a topic called Who Are You? Well, who are we? Because in these times, we're in these so-called holiday seasons. And I think it's very important that those who follow Mashiach or who follow Christ separate themselves as such. And we have to ask ourselves some serious questions. A lot of us have family and extended family who are very deeply rooted in paganism and follow this nation's guidelines. But who's going to follow the scripture, and who are we going to be in the presence of those, okay, who follow these pagan ideologies? During the month of October, I passed by many local congregations on corners, many worship houses, and had pumpkins all on their lawn, all on the grass. And we have some of the congregations trying to take the same day Halloween and then just flip it, and call it Holy Night, or dress up like biblical characters and make graven images and so forth. But all these things to be among our people. All these things to be among our people. That's the question. Who are we? And more importantly, who are you? If you claim to be a follower of Hamashiach and a part of the kingdom, the called out assembly, the ecclesia, if you will, the church. Okay, so let's pick it up in chapter 25 of the book of Genesis, and let's see how this thing began. I mean, that's a good way to start. Chapter 25 in the book of Genesis, and it will be, let me start reading at verse 22. This is part 1. So if it be the will of Elohim, I will be back next week and do part 2 of this actual lesson. Okay, so this is Genesis chapter 25 and verse 22. As you know, this is the story of Isaac and his wife Rebekah, who was barren, but he entreated Elohim for her to be pregnant. So he allowed that, and as the father would have it, she conceived, and in her womb there were twins. Okay, there were twins. There was Jacob and Esau. So this is the theme as we read in verse 22 of chapter 25. And the children struggled together within her, and she said, If it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of Elohim. So you see, she is wondering, why are these children struggling in her womb? Why is this? Okay? Because she understands apparently that they supposed to be brothers. These are her children. They should love one another. But there's a struggle from the beginning. So let's look at verse 23. And Elohim answered and said unto her, this is what he said, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people. Now this is 2 nations. So he's talking about 2 manner of people, 2 different types of people are in her womb. Okay? And he says, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. That shall be separated from thy bowels, and the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. So we know the elder was Esau, okay, and the younger was Jacob. And the father says that the elder shall serve the younger. Well, let's look at these 2 nations that are in the womb. We have now a nation in her womb that is going to be called and chosen, and we have one that is not called and chosen from the womb. My friends, in these last days, the called and the chosen must stand out. Why? It is our responsibility to the kingdom. It is our desire from the inside, led by the Spirit, to be different, just as it is here from the womb. Now, there's nothing we can do to change that. Why? Because the Father, in His sovereign nature, chose Jacob. He chose him to be later named Israel, right? To be called and chosen people. This means that we are not to respond the same as the pagans do. We are not to respond the same as those that are the heathen or those who are not called and chosen outside of the assembly. Do you see that these days, my friend? No, you do not. It is so hard to tell the difference between those who are of the world and those who are so-called following Hamashiach or following Christ. So hard to tell the difference. They celebrate Halloween. The congregation celebrate Halloween. They celebrate Christmas on December 25th. The congregation celebrates Christmas on December 25th. Well, if that's the case, what makes them different? They get separated and divorced in the world and have children out of wedlock. Those in the kingdom get separated and have children out of wedlock and divorced. What is the difference? The difference is we do not know who we really are. And when I say we, I'm talking about those that have been called and chosen to walk among those that are not. Those that have been called and chosen to follow and live inside the kingdom of Yahuwah. Okay? Now let's turn over in the New Testament, okay? Let's go into the new agreement. Let's go to 1 Peter and see what he refers to us as in part 1 of this series. Let's look at this. Go to 1 Peter chapter 2, okay? And let's look at verse 9. It says, "But ye are a chosen generation." Do you see that? Glory be to his name. Ye are a chosen generation, okay? A royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people. Now, what makes this holy nation so peculiar? What makes us so peculiar, excuse me, is that we do not follow in the same pagan ritualistic manners that this nation does, or that those that are called out of the on the outside of the assembly. We do not walk with them. We're not walk that way. We don't follow that way. They say they want to serve paganism. We say we do not. That's what makes us peculiar. And we do it, and I'll read this in a later portion. We do this right in the midst of those who are lost. Speak up right in the midst of them. And they say, "What are you celebrating for Christmas?" We say, "No, we do not celebrate that day." Why? We were not commanded to. Number one. Number two, it's not his birthday anyway. It was a holiday that was inserted by the pagans. Now, this can be easily researched, okay, on the web. You can go to the library. It's very easy to find out the origin of Christmas. You all know that. And the origin of the rest of the days. Thanksgiving, we know the truth about it. But you know how we do, Some of our people, we want to take the days that are pagan and flip them and try to make them holy. We cannot do that. We are to protest that activity. So in this holiday season, a lot of those of us that are called and chosen, we are going to be called to take a stand. Once and for all, we're going to be called to take a stand against all this pagan ritualistic, the Santa Claus, the Christmas tree, the reindeer. We're going to be called to take a stand. And this is another way to determine who is going to be separated, who has been called out of darkness, who has been chosen, and who has not been. Okay? Let's finish reading this verse in 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 9. "But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, and holy nation, a peculiar people." Why? "That ye should show forth the praises of him who hath called you out of darkness into his marvelous light." Now, this term darkness here represents many things, but in here it's talking about ignorance. You've been called out of ignorance into an enlightenment, which is knowledge. But what is the knowledge? The knowledge is we are not to walk the same way as the heathen. My friends, may I say that this makes us peculiar. Peculiar to whom? Peculiar to those of the pagan nation. Glory be to his name. There should be a difference, my friend. It is my prayer that in this season you will continue to walk and you will hold up the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. Praises to Yahuwah in order to represent being a peculiar people. Join me next week if it be the will of Elohim for part 2 of this message. Be empowered, my friend.